Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Shall we start now?
Sure, sir.
Yes, sir.
In the morning session, we discussed about the Struts framework, architecture of Spring MVC framework, and comparison between various frameworks available for web development. Now, in this session, we are going to discuss the framework of Spring Boot and the architectural details of Hibernate framework. First, we shall proceed with the Spring Boot framework. As you know, this is a Spring framework meant for the purpose of developing web applications. In the morning session, there was a comparison between Spring MVC and Spring Boot. In Spring MVC, there is no facility of auto configuration. So it is a heavyweight framework. In comparison to that, Spring Boot is available with auto configuration. Another important aspect of Spring Boot is this framework is available with an embedded server, that is Tomcat. Tomcat is inbuilt in Spring Boot and it allows auto configuration, due to which the web development becomes easier. We can develop our web application with a less amount of coding, because the facility of auto configuration handles many things for us. Basically, Spring Boot is a utility framework that enables us to develop production ready applications. Once application is developed, it is ready for production. So application can be developed with reduced cost and very minimal configuration. So as auto configuration facility is available, so with a minimum lines of code, we can develop our web application. These are all features of Spring Boot framework. It is available with, this framework is available with ready-made components known as starters. Spring Boot starters. It is available with some components which are known as runners. It is available with some other components which are called as actuators. So these are the various components that are available in this particular framework. So Spring Boot Starter, it eases the application, the dependency injection part of the software. So we shall discuss how a starter helps in dependency injection. Many dependencies can be automatically injected into our web application if we include starters into our application. We shall discuss details about starters. What are the starters available, and by inclusion of which starter helps us in what way? All those things we shall discuss. So one primary feature of Spring Boot is it is available with starters. It is available with an embedded server. It helps us in developing production ready applications. It allows us to manage the applications with facilities like health checks, metrics gathering, etc. Health checking matlab, by using this feature, time to time we can check and verify the health of our application. In what condition the application is running. What is the current health status of our application? Metrics gathering matlab data gathering. Some important information about our application. For example, information about garbage collection. During the running of the application, suppose we want to know what is the status of garbage collection made by our application. That is a data that can be collected during the running of the application. That is metrics gathering. So all those features are available with this framework. That enables us to know the overall status of our application. Using this framework reduces the development time, as many things are readily available within this framework. Server is readily available, starters are readily available, runners are readily available, many things are readily available. So development time becomes less. So due to many advantages associated with Spring Boot, it increases productivity and reduces the cost of developing the application. So this framework has a very important component. These components are known as starters. Simply, starters are ready-made software components. They can be got activated to achieve some sorts of operations. For example, the table shows the name of the starters. These starters are available with this framework. When Spring-boot-starter-web This is the name of the starter. If web starter is included in our web application, then it helps in building web application very easily that works over the RESTful design pattern. And when this starter is included, automatically the embedded server, that is Tomcat, that gets activated. Whatever web application we develop, that will run over that server. All those things are configured automatically as and when this starter is added with our web application. It allows easy development of web application. The web application operates on RESTful web principles. The web application uses Tomcat server to be executed. So all those things are done automatically. You must be knowing what is RESTful application. What are the principles involved in RESTful application? Spring Boot allows us to develop web application that operates on the principle of RESTful applications. RESTful matlab representational state transfer. REST. Representational state transfer. This is a design pattern, architectural design pattern that uses a request response communication model. The web applications that uses RESTful principle, RESTful services, they enable communication over the internet using standard HTTP protocol. The principles pertaining to RESTful services. Number one is all communications are made between client and server using HTTP protocol. Every resources used during the running of the application, every resources used by the application must be identified by some unique identification. This is number two. Number three is RESTful web services is statelessness. This is statelessness. Statelessness matlab each client request is separate from other client request. Each request is independent of each other. Number four is there is a clear-cut separation between client and server. Both are independent and both can evolve separately. The server doesn't know who is the client. Similarly, the client doesn't know what is the server and which server is responsible for processing the request. Client doesn't know that. So there is a clear-cut separation between client and the server. So these are some of the principles of RESTful web services. Spring Boot allows to develop a web application that based on the principles of RESTful web services. When this starter is included in our web application during development, Spring Boot Starter Web, so web starter, if this is included, it allows us to develop web application that will work on REST principle, and that uses by default the embedded server, that is Tomcat. Similarly, JDBC is another starter. When JDBC starter is included in our web application, the application will have the facilities for database connectivity as per the principles of JDBC connection pool. In the morning session, we discussed something about JDBC, Java Database Connectivity. That is a technology that can be used for the purpose of making connectivity with the database. When this starter is added, it ensures that connectivity will be established as per the principles of JDBC. Similarly, validation is a starter. It validates the Java Bean components. Java Beans means software components. All validations will occur. All validations pertaining to Java Bean will occur as per these principles. Similarly, security starter. It is used for ensuring security for the web application. The security mechanism is enforced by this starter. So all these starters are available with the Spring Boot framework. During the development of web application, as per our requirement, we can include the starters in the web application. Similarly, other components are runners. As the name indicates, runners are those components. They are responsible for running the web application. That's why the name is runner. There are two types of runners: command line runner and application runner. Actually, command line runner and application runner both are interfaces. And these two interfaces provides a method, that is run method. We can run our Spring Boot application overriding the run method available in these two interfaces. Run is an abstract method that is available in the application runner interface. That is also available in the command line runner interface. This method is helpful in running our application. So for running our application, we need to override this method, run method. So nowadays, the application runner, that is the up-to-date way of running our web application. So we can use the run method available in the application runner interface. By overriding the run method available in the application runner interface, we can run our interface. We can run our web application. Next is DevTools. This framework is available with certain development tools. This is available with certain development tools, as the name indicates. The set of utilities, dev tools are a set of utilities that is available for enhancing the development process by accelerating the development cycle. To accelerate the development process and to reduce the manual effort involved in the development process, dev tools are used. So what are the facilities available in dev tools? Automatic restart is a facility. That means it allows to restart the application automatically when the configuration changes. When the developer changes any configuration, the application is deployed automatically. Manual deployment, you need not have to wait for manual deployment. The application starts automatically so that the changes becomes effective. Whenever any changes is made in the development process, in the configuration, in the class path, whatever the changes that may be made, the application restarts automatically to make the changes effective. That facility is available. Similarly, another feature is live reloading. Live reloading. This process involves automatically refreshment of the browser. When resources like HTML or CSS are updated. In our web application, the basic structure is provided by HTML. When the developer makes some changes in the HTML, automatically the browser is refreshed so that the changes can be seen over the browser. The changes is automatically rendered over the browser. That is live reloading. One is automatic restarting, another is live reloading. Automatic restarting is whenever any changes made in the configuration, the application is started automatically so that the changes will become effective. Live reloading is whenever any changes is made in the HTML document, that is the basic structure of the web application. When any changes is made into that, that is automatically rendered over the browser. We need not have to render it manually. Automatically that is rendered. And changes can be effective. So these are the facilities available in this framework which ensures performance improvement. Similarly, actuators. Spring Boot actuators. So actuators are used to provide information, related to the current status of our web application. That is provided by actuator. So what information it can provide us? So it allows us to gather metrics understand the network traffic, and check the current status of the application, overall status of the application. For that purpose, three main actuators are used: endpoints, metrics, and audit. Endpoints are used for the purpose of knowing the network traffic. Metrics are used for the purpose of knowing the current status of the application. Audit is used for the purpose of knowing the configuration. Minimal, what minimal configuration has been used. So actuators are helpful in knowing all these informations about our application. Some endpoints are used here. Health is a endpoint, info is a help endpoint, metrics is a endpoint, ENV is a endpoint. These endpoints are used to know various information about our application. Health endpoint provides the health status of the application. How healthy our application is. Info provides the general information about the application. Metrics provides the data, information about the application. Information like the memory uses by the application, the CPU usage, what is the percentage of usage, how effectively CPU is used by the application. So these are the informations that can be gathered. So endpoint metrics gives us these informations. Information about garbage collection, information about memory used by the JVM, information about CPU usage. These informations are provided to us by metrics endpoint. Similarly, ENV, that gives us environmental information. So these are the information that can be collected about our application by using actuators. So the Spring Boot uses starters, primarily used for dependency injunction. It uses runners. Two interfaces are available. By using them, we can implement our project, our application. Dev tools, that is helpful to us for dev tools helps us in various ways like automatic restarting, live reloading, etc. Actuators are used for the purpose of gathering information. So Spring Boot is an important component of the Spring framework. Spring MVC and Spring Boot both are used for the purpose of developing web applications. Now, we shall proceed to another framework. In the morning session, we had some discussions about this framework, that is hibernate. Now we shall discuss the architectural details of the hibernate framework.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now you are audible.
There was some technical problem. So now we shall proceed to the second framework, that is hibernate. We shall discuss the architectural details of hibernate. As we know, hibernate is a framework, the purpose of which is making object relational mapping. As it is written in the first line, hibernate is for ORM, object relational mapping, which is a programming technique for converting data between incompatible type systems. So our application uses objects and data are stored in databases, and databases are not objects, relational database. So database is relational database. Our program uses objects, so there is a incompatibility. So remove that incompatibility. To make the system compatible, mapping is necessary. That is done by hibernate. And due to this mapping, object relational mapping, the operations involving the database becomes possible. So ORM makes the crude operations a reality. Crude operations are possible due to the object relational mapping. So on the basis of this principle, the architecture of hibernate is designed. It is written in the third point. Hibernate manages the mapping details between a set of objects and the underlying database. And it is a persistence framework. Somebody was asking in the morning session why it is called persistent framework. So it is a persistence framework because once data are mapped to the objects, so objects becomes persistent. Objects take memory spaces. So hibernate uses two levels of cache memory. Level 1 and level 2. Due to the use of two levels of cache memory, the objects are persistent. So hibernate is a persistence framework which uses two levels of cache memory. Advantage of Hibernate framework are it is open source, freely available, the performance is very much higher, lightweight, it is database independent. We may use any type of databases. Our web application may use any type of databases. Whether it uses SQL database or it uses Oracle database or it uses Access database, whatever the database we may use. Hibernate will work for all the databases. Caching facility. There are two-way caching, two levels of caching is available to make the object persistent. The framework is scalable. This framework supports lazy loading. Lazy loading matlab the entire application is not loaded at a time. The major components of the application is loaded. Other minor components are loaded when it is needed. As and when requirement arises, they are loaded. Suppose a image, loading of a image. Loading of a image that is done as and when requirement arises. So not all components are loaded at a time. Major components are loaded and other minor components are loaded as and when they are required to be loaded. That is what lazy loading is. So Hibernate supports lazy loading. So these are all benefits of using this framework. And this framework is having its own query language. That is Hibernate query language, HQL. You might be knowing SQL, structured query language. Structured query language is a language that is used to put queries to the database. Generally, query is framed and it is given to the database. As per the query, the database is accessed and required information is retrieved from the database. So this framework, Hibernate, is having its own query language, that is SQL. This is the diagram. The diagram demonstrates how mapping takes place. At one side of the application, we are having objects. At the other side of the application, we are having relational database management system. In between is Hibernate framework. So Hibernate framework maps the objects with the RDBMS. The detailed architecture involves 4 layers. The detailed Hibernate architecture involves 4 layers. Java application, that is application layer. Second layer is persistence layer. Third layer is Hibernate layer. fourth layer is database layer. As the diagram indicates, the top layer is application, bottom layer is database. So there is incompatibility between application at the top and database at the bottom. So to remove the incompatibility, mapping is necessary. A mapping is done through persistent objects. So in between top and bottom layer, there are two layers. One is persistent object, the layer containing persistent objects, and second layer is hibernate layer, which is responsible for making the mapping. And the mapping involves many processes. As far as detailed architecture is concerned, what are the processes involved in the mapping process that are demonstrated into this architectural diagram? This diagram demonstrates the detailed architectural specifications of Hibernate framework. Please look into the middle two layers. Top layer is application layer, Java application, it carries the Java application. Bottom layer is database layer, it carries the relational database system. Then two other layers are there in between. One is a layer which is displayed in a pink color. That layer is persistent objects layer. And the second layer is hibernate layer. Hibernate layer involves many things. As you can see in the diagram, there are many things in the hibernate layer. So the mapping process involves all these components, all these things. Let us try to understand how the architecture works, how the mapping process is conducted. When application tries to access the database and the client wants to perform some operation using the database, a transaction takes place. Suppose the client wants to update the database. So for updating the database, the client has to frame certain queries. The queries are to be put to the database so that updation takes place. This activity is transaction. Query is framed, that is put to the database, the query gets executed and respective operation is performed. That is a transaction. So for this transaction to happen, many things are involved. Number one is configuration. Number two is session factory. Number three is session. Number four is query. Then first level cache. Then second level cache. These are the steps involved for a transaction to happen. First one is configuration. configuration is an object. Before mapping takes place, the configuration object is created. And for a mapping process, the configuration object is created only once. That is what is written here. An instance of configuration allows the application to specify properties and mapping documents to be used when creating a session factory. As the diagram indicates, the configuration object is created first. When the mapping process starts, the very first object that is created is configuration object. And it is created only once. After creation of the configuration object, then another object gets created, that is session factory. So session factory object is derived from the configuration object. As the name indicates, session factory, you can see the diagram also. Session factory object is derived from the configuration object. As the name indicates, session factory matlab it is responsible, this object is responsible for producing many objects, many session objects. So multiple session objects can be derived from the session factory object. So session factory is the parent object from which multiple session objects can be derived. How many session objects can be derived? That depends on the transactions. How many transactions we want to perform. So it depends how many session objects will be created. That is what is written here. Hibernate creates an immutable session factory object. Once the session factory object is created, that is immutable. That cannot be changed. Factory means many things can be derived from it. That's why the name is factory. So it is responsible for producing many session objects. So Hibernate creates an immutable session factory object using the configuration object. That means configuration is the parent object from which session factory object is created, which is immutable. In turn, the session factory object is used to instantiate multiple session objects. And multiple session objects are created. Why they are created? They are created to service client requests. For every client request, there corresponds a session object. So for multiple clients requests, we need multiple session objects. And all the session objects are derived from the session factory object. And all the session objects are operate as multiple threads. You must be knowing Java is a multi-threaded programming language. Each session object is treated as a thread. Multiple session objects are treated as multiple threads. They run in parallel, in synchronous to each other. That is what is written here. Session object provides an interface to interact with the database. It is written here. After session factory object is created, it is used to instantiate the session object to handle client request. That means it is clear that client requests are handled by session objects. So session objects are responsible for handling client request. And what is client request? What for the client request is? The client request is to perform 4 basic operations. 4 basic CRUD operations, CRUD. The client request may be for performing create operation. It may be for performing read operation. It may be for performing update operation, or it may be for performing delete operation. The client request is primarily for performing any of these 4 operations. So each client request is handled by one session object. That is what is written here. Session object provides an interface to interact with the database in the form of 4 operations. That means finally session object interacts with the database as the diagram indicates. Here you can refer to the diagram. Configuration object. From configuration, session factory object is derived. From session factory object, session object is derived. Multiple session objects can be derived to handle multiple client requests. Each client request may be for the processing of a CRUD operation, any of the CRUD operations. So session object is used to handle client request to perform a CRUD operation. That's why a query is derived from the session object. What the operation is for, whether it is update operation or it is delete or it is insert, a query is framed. That is a query object. So query object is derived from the session object, then query is put to the database. Before the query is put to the database, it is stored into the fast label cache. So it becomes a persistent object. Before the query is put to the database, you see the diagram, before the query is put to the database, it is stored into the fast label cache. So that the query object becomes persistent. What happens when the query becomes persistent? If the query... yes?
No, sir, it says permanent. The object becomes permanent.
What happens when it is persistent? Why it needs to be stored into the cache?
Because only then we can access the database elements.
No, if the client for next time, for a future, any point in future, if the clients wants to make the same request, wants to put the same request, then a query object need not have to be framed again, because it is already there into the first level cache. Directly the first level cache can be accessed and it can be taken from the cache and put into the database. So for further references, if the query is to be referred in future, for that purpose only the query is stored into the cache. It becomes persistent. That is what is written here. You see, first level cache. It is a mechanism that improves the performance of any application. Hibernate ORM reduces the number of queries made to a database in a single transaction using first level cache. So number of query gets reduced. If repeated queries are to be made, then it can be, the application can refer to the first level cache so that it can get the query from the first level cache. No need to frame the query again. So for repeated queries, the first level cache is maintained. So as the diagram depicts, the first level cache is associated with the session object. First level cache is associated with the session object. Session object is derived from the session factory. Query is derived from the session object, and that query goes to the first level cache. Then it is put to the database so that database can be accessed. This is the mechanism. Then what for the second level cache? The second level cache is used globally in the session factory scope. To see the diagram, the scope is second level cache. The scope belongs to the session factory object. That means all the objects that have been derived from the session factory are stored into second level cache. The query object is stored into the first level cache because it is derived from the session object. First level cache, the scope of first level cache belongs to the session object. So query object is stored into the first level cache. All other objects that has been derived from the session factory are stored into the second level cache. So whatever the objects involved in the mapping process, all the objects are stored into the cache, whether it is first level cache or it is second level cache. All the objects are stored into the cache. That is the reason why they are known as persistent object. So during a session matlab the conversation session. The conversation session between the client and the server. Session starts when conversation begins. Session ends when the conversation terminates. Starting from beginning of the conversion to the end of the conversion, there is a session. There exists the session. All the objects involved into a session are stored into cache, whether it is first level cache or it is second level cache. So these objects are persistent objects. So this is the architectural specifications on the basis of which the Hibernate framework works. And without a database, in present scenario, a database is a must for a web application. information are lives for the web application. Without database, there exists no web application. So Hibernate plays a very vital role as far as any web application is concerned. Now life cycle. During the mapping process, an object passes through 4 different phases. Just now, we discussed that all the objects involved into the mapping process are persistent objects. During a session, all objects are stored either in first level of cache or in second level of cache. The objects passes through 4 different phases, 4 different states. So these 4 stages or these 4 states of an object constitute the life cycle of an object. So the life cycle of an object is constituted by 4 states, by 4 stages: transient stage, persistent stage, detached stage, and removed stage. These are the 4 states through which a object passes. These 4 states constitute the object life cycle. Let us see the diagram. This is the life cycle diagram. As and when a new object is created, immediately it is in transient state. When it goes to the whether first level cache or second level cache, it goes to the persistent state. A configuration object is created. Once it is created, it is in transient state. When the configuration object goes to the second level of cache, it becomes persistent. So from transient state, the object moves to the persistent state. So this movement is possible by using methods, save method or save or update method. Any of the 2 methods can be used for the purpose of moving the object from transient to persistent stage. Then from persistent stage, the object may go to the detached state. Detached state. If the object is not required, then it may go to the detached state. Suppose a query has already been put to the database and information has been retrieved. So there is no need for that object. So temporarily, that object may be sent to the detached state. So from persistent state, the object may go to the detached state temporarily. As and when it is required, again it is required, it may come back to the persistent stage. So various methods are used for this purpose, for swapping in between a persistent and a detached state. Evict clear methods are used for moving the object from persistent state to the detached state. Similarly, for moving the object from detached state to the persistent state, update method, merge method, these methods are used. So there may be a possibility of swap between persistent and a detached state. When the object is no more needed, then from detached state, it may be garbage collected. From detached state, it may be garbage collected and finally it is removed. Garbage is collected and object gets removed. Another possibility is from persistent state, the object may directly be removed. If there is no need, from persistent state, the object may be removed. So this is the life cycle diagram. So these are the 4 states through which a object moves during its life cycle. As and when it is created, it is in transient state. From transient state, the object goes to the persistent stage. From persistent stage, it may go to the detached state. From detached state, it may again go back to the persistent stage. From persistent stage, it may be garbage collected and removed. So these are the possible stages through which a object moves. So this constitutes the entity life cycle. So this is the mechanism that is implemented for object relational mapping, which is done by Hibernate framework. In the morning session, we had a discussion. Hibernate framework is available with the, that is an integral part of the Java 2 J2EE framework. Whether it is Spring MVC or it is Spring Boot, whatever the framework may be, always it is available in integration with Hibernate. Now the most important component, that is SQL. You must have used SQL language for querying a database, that is structured query language. The basic difference is that is written here. The main difference between HQL and SQL. The main difference lies in their representation. How a query is represented. In HQL, Hibernate query language, each query is represented by a query object. This is what is depicted in the diagram, architectural diagram. Each query is represented through a query object, and query object is derived from session object. Try to remember this. In Hibernate query language, each query is represented through a session object. Query itself is a object, and that object is derived from session object. That is the concept. But in SQL, that is not the case. SQL is a general purpose query language, structured query language. A query is not represented through an object in SQL. But in HQL, a query is represented through an object. That object is derived from the session object. So that is the difference between SQL and HQL. As we know, there are 4 operations that may be performed using a database. Create operation, read operation, update operation, and delete operation. Create operation means new information can be put into the database. That is create operation. Read operation matlab existing information can be retrieved from the database. That is read operation. Update means making changes into the database. Delete is removing information from the database. 4 examples are given here for 4 operations. To perform these 4 basic operations, 4 examples are given. First example is a read operation. CRUD, read. Read matlab retrieve, retrieval of information. One example is given. First, a query object is formed to retrieve information of that student whose ID is 1. This query will retrieve the information of that particular student whose student ID is 1. In the database, there may be information of hundreds of students, thousands of students. The database may contain the information of thousands of students. But this particular query will retrieve the information of that particular student whose ID is 1. Query is framed for that purpose. You see how a query is framed. First, a query object is created. The name of the object is query. Query, Q with small q. That is the name of the object, query. The word query with capital Q. Query is equal to. So first query is name of the class. Second query is name of the object. So query object is of query class. Is equal to session dot create query. Here is the use of session object. Try to recollect the diagram. Query object is derived from the session object. So session dot create query, then query is framed from student. Student is the name of the table. From student table, what will be retrieved? Where ID is equal to 1. Set parameter function method is used in the next line. Query dot set parameter is, 1. That means ID is equal to 1. Then finally, a list object is created that will carry the result of the query. Query dot list method. So 3 instructions are given here. The first instruction, query object is created. In the second instruction, the query object is fulfilled by using the parameters of the query. And the third instruction carries the result of the query. A list object that carries the result of the query. The query is put to the database and the result is carried by the list object. When list object is displayed, that will display the result of the query. This is how a query is framed and it is put to the database. So this is a read operation. Second one, process remains the same, but it is a delete operation. Query object is framed, session.create query, delete student where id is equal to 1, set parameter is equal to 1. So information of that student will be deleted from the database whose id is 1, whose student id is 1. For that purpose, query object is created and the result of the query is put into another object, that is result. So query dot execute update. Execute update is the method that is responsible for putting the query into the database. Query is put to the database and accordingly the query gets executed. When query gets executed, one record will be deleted from the database. Which record will be deleted? The record of that particular student whose ID is 1. So this is second. So first example is a read operation. Second example is a delete operation. Third example is a update operation. Update operation. Process remains the same. The database will be updated. What updation will be made? Last name of the student will become Singh. Something else is there. Last name carries something else that will be replaced by Singh. In which record? The record of that student whose ID is 1. Last name will be Singh. So existing last name will be replaced by Singh. So same process. Query object is created. Session.create query, update student, set last name is equal to Singh where ID is equal to 1. Two parameters are set in the following two statements, set parameter methods. Set parameter methods are used twice. First set parameter sets the parameter Singh for last name. Second set parameter method sets the parameter value 1 for ID. So that is the reason why two set parameter methods are used. Two parameter values are sets into the query. Query object is created. Then it is put to the database by using execute update method. So when execute update method is executed, the query is put to the database and the respective operation takes place into the database. Database is successfully updated. Then last one is create operation. CRUD. The first is create operation. Create matlab something is inserted into the database. The command is insert. So create query. First query object is created. create query, insert into student, what will be inserted? First name, last name, email ID. 3 will be inserted. 3 information will be inserted. So completely a new information. Information of a new student gets inserted into the database. So method used is execute update. So database will be updated with some new information. The command used is insert. So this query, last query involves insert operation. The third query involves update operation. The second query involves delete operation. First query involves retrieve operation, read operation. So one example from 4 basic operations CRUD are given to demonstrate how SQL language is used for the purpose of framing query and put the query into the database. So J2EE framework, we have discussed in all these sessions the important framework available for developing web applications. So now it is up to you to use these frameworks, to practice with these frameworks, so that web applications can be developed comfortably and easily by you. With this, we finish the portions that is available in this particular paper. Mostly the paper deals with A2E frameworks. We have covered most of the aspects, important concepts that are a part of this paper. Now it is up to you to go through the details and explore more and more about all these frameworks.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can in the morning I'm not able to attend the session, sir. Can I get the PPT, sir?
How can I share the PPTs? Is there any WhatsApp number or something like that?
Here in the screen, so you can share on screen in the.
Please share the number with me. Which one is your number? Is it there in the message box? What is your WhatsApp number? No, it is not there in the message box.
Yes, sir. 7005.
The number is not there in the message box.
This numbers I have.
Put it in the message box.
Yes, sir, I have put, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Let me take this number. Okay. This is your WhatsApp number. Okay.
Yes, sir. It's my WhatsApp number.
Yes, I shall share the PPTs with you.
Thank you, sir.
Please send
Okay.
in the group also.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Let us finish the session. Now it is up to you to explore more and more. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.